Welcome to The Author Next Door, where hosts Angela HAAS and CASSIE NEWELL chat about the wild world of writing and publishing. Join them for weekly episodes and special monthly guests. Pull up a chair. The conversation starts now.
Welcome to episode 13, List Building and Managing Multiple Genres with our very special guest, Amy Vansant. I'm Angela HAAS, and I'm with my lovely co-host. And welcome, Amy. Thank you so much for being willing to be on the podcast today.
My pleasure.
Amy is a USA Today, Amazon All-Star, and Wall Street Journal bestselling author. She has written over 40 books, including fun, thrilling She McQueen series, the rollicking Twisty Pineapple Port Mysteries, and the action-packed Kitty Urban Fantasies, and 3 rom-coms. She specializes in fun, exciting reads with plenty of laughs and action. She tried to write serious books, but they always end up full of jokes, so she gave up. Welcome, Amy.
Welcome.
Oh, it's so great to have you. I met Amy through using your service, Authors XP. So can you first tell us a little bit how you got that started? Because it's an amazing service for authors.
It started a little differently than it ended up, but the idea was, marketing books is really hard, and I thought it would be nice to be able to network better with other authors and maybe work together towards that end. So I called it the Awkward Authors XP because it was originally supposed to be like an author's experience where we all kind of hung out and shared our books in each other's newsletters and whatnot. But it turns out that most authors, because they're so busy with other lives and everything, like nobody could get anything organized, and nobody really wanted to worry about getting their books in other people's newsletters, as well as that does work when you do manage to organize it. Then I started to branch out and do newsletters and list building and pretty much anything that somebody came to me and if they said, hey, I really wish there was an easier way to get reviews, I would start a review service. And I wish there was a way to get beta readers. And so I would do that. So it's grown a lot since 2017, but I think I pretty much have all the bases covered at this point.
I personally use it, and my list has grown from when you're an author starting out, it's always your 40 of your family and friends on your email list.
Exactly.
Which you have to start somewhere, right? But I've heard so many authors say that that is the one question they have. How do you even start? And using Authors XP, I've grown mine into 1,700 people. I've heard that list building is the most important thing you can do for your marketing because you control your list. But why else do you think it's the most important thing versus social media, all the other things that some authors really don't like to do?
Well, what you said really taps into every aspect of why it's so important. So we know that Amazon is pretty much 80% of sales as opposed to like Barnes & Noble and the rest of them. So probably even more than 80%. So they pretty much have a stranglehold on things. And they also, she said quietly because she's on Amazon, don't let them hear me. They also have started their own imprints. So, when they're doing their own thing and trying to make money off their site from books, they're pushing their books that they came out with. They're pushing the big publishers that they can sell for, $15 a book instead of $2.99. So we're sort of an afterthought. And that whole concept has just been getting harder and harder as time goes on, as they get better and better at tweaking their own marketing. Mm-hmm. So you have no control over that pretty much. Social media, as you know, can flip all over the place. It becomes less useful. It's noisier. Sites that you thought you liked suddenly become sites that you don't like. All kinds of things can happen and you don't have any control over them. So the only thing you actually do have any control over are the people that are your actual fans who have said they're your fans and who you can cultivate and try and get to read the next book after the next.
Yeah. CASSIE, how about your list? How do you cultivate your email list? Because you have a coaching service too, so that also helps, although there may not be that much crossover. But how do you
So
list
Amy,
build?
I have multiple genres, and starting over sometimes and segregating the genres is really difficult, I think. And for myself, when I started a new pen name, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm starting at zero. So you kind of try to cultivate your current grown list to say, hey, if you like this genre, I'm starting this, but I've always done like newsletter swaps through BookFunnel and things like that. And to me, it's always a long trudging event to do those things. It's more of a long game than a short game. And I also realized over the years, engagement is so important in the newsletter, because a lot of times I think newer authors are looking at the number, but they're not looking at how to cultivate their list and keep them engaged. What kind of advice do you have for cultivating your newsletter and keeping people engaged? Because it is the one thing you can control, as you said.
Definitely. I mean, take a second to think about the newsletters that come to you, or just anything that comes to you from anyone or anything. There's a lot of them that, after a while, you're just like, delete, 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 and maybe you never look at it again. Maybe you make a filter so that it shifts somewhere else and you never see it, or you just unsubscribe. So the same things you're doing are hitting people that way. So if you do a newsletter too often, they're going to get sick of you. If you do a newsletter that does nothing but say, hey, buy my book every time, and it's the same one book or it's the same couple of books, people are just going to stop because there's nothing there. So the best way to keep people is to have some sort of value add to what you're sending them, other than pushing your books. So for me, because humor is kind of my thing, I used to more than I do now. I've gotten a little lazy, but I used to put like just a funny story about my dog doing something or whatever, but kept it short and punchy, not a big, long, drawn out thing for a weak punchline at the end. I would share things that I just happened to, buy or start using that I really, really liked, that I thought maybe they would like too. Easiest thing to do, though, if you really don't want to create content, which can take a lot of time out of your writing life, is to share books by other authors that are on sale whenever you're getting ready to send out. So it's nice. You can sort of collect a little group over time and let them know, look, we're not going to pressure each other. There's no, hey, I've got a new book out, you have to put it in your newsletter or you're ostracized. Just to have like a loose affiliation with other authors that write the same thing that you do. Right. And then whenever you're about to send out a newsletter, you can go, hey, everybody, quick email. Does anybody have any books that they're on sale or new or anything like that? And then you can put it in your newsletter. And then people know that when they get your newsletter, they're not going to get hammered over the head with buy my book that they already bought a year ago. Right. They're going to see other books that are on sale that are like your book that they like. So that's an easy way to quickly add value.
Right. So I'm also curious, is there a crucial marketing strategy for authors as they're trying to build their list? Are there particular things that you would advise a new or more seasoned author, in terms of building their list and kind of leaning in? Are there?
I mean, definitely don't buy any lists. It's okay to do giveaways like AXP does and some other sites offer.
Right.
If you get emails saying, hey, we've got a list of 10 million, readers, just don't even bother, because first of all, you're probably going to get nailed for spamming anyway, especially if you're using a third-party system like MailChimp or something like that. They don't like getting a whole bunch of, rando emails plugged in and sent. So you definitely want to avoid that. All you really can do is make sure that your website has, the join my newsletter thing on there, to make sure you mention it in, everything that you do, that you can mention it if you have a presence online or whatever. And keep joining builders or networking with other authors. And because every time you do something with another author, you're basically swapping lists legally. You're not just saying, hey, give me your list, and bombarding people that didn't expect you to show up. You're building together.
Do you find it difficult to find authors to swap with when you're just starting out? Because I also find it right now, my romance is quite young and new with this pen name, and it's a very small list, although my open rate is fabulous. But I'm seeing now people being a little higher in their expectations. Oh, you need 2,000 people on your list or 1,000 minimum to do these things. Like, how do you like break into that around people that are setting the bar higher when you're brand new? Do you have
Just
any?
join a bunch of builders. I
Just do a
suppose.
bunch of builders to get there. Yeah.
I think Written Word has one now, and Book Sweeps, of course.
I'm trying it.
Yeah. And you all have different, there's a lot of readers, I'm sure, that go to all the giveaways and whatnot, but they all have slightly different audiences, so you can keep building. And you can do incentives of your own. I run a pretty low cost Facebook ad that runs pretty much constantly, and it goes to a page on my site where you can win. I think I have a Kindle on there now, win a Kindle. And sorry, I'm losing my voice. And people can click on the Facebook ad and they go there, and then I have my next upcoming book on there. So maybe I'll get a pre-order out of it if I'm lucky. And I've got to sign up to my newsletter there, and I'll win the Kindle if you sign up. And that gives me a little trickle of people all the time at a fairly low cost. That is something different than the giveaway sites.
Right.
The only downside to the giveaway sites are that it's a particular kind of person who's looking for cheap books as a rule. So it's not necessarily people who don't want to spend a lot of money on books. So if you get them from other places, like maybe running a Facebook ad once in a while, at least you've got a chance of getting maybe higher end readers.
Right.
That's a really good idea to have your own giveaway. So do you just buy a Kindle and then just give it away, or do you get it? Yeah. So, I mean,
every time I have that, what's it called? Oh, Amazon Prime Day, I'll buy like 6.
Yeah. Having your own contest where you can control the prize, and that's a really good idea. I actually think I might try that, because I recently just started a romance email list, and maybe you can speak to that, because I didn't do a new pen name, but I feel like I have to have a separate list for my romance email, because I was doing sci-fi, fantasy, superhero fiction. So I was really still marketing to women readers, but I don't know that there's enough crossover that I think people who really are signing up for the sci-fi fantasy giveaways aren't going to want a romantic comedy. And you have different genres. So is it harder to get people to split and sign up for both? Or, I mean, how do you manage those two genres? I guess that's my question.
I started to split it, and then it was just too time consuming. I don't want to be a 24/7 marketer. I got to go write the books, or I won't have anything to market. So I decided to just keep my list all together. And if I happen to be pushing, urban fantasy that week or whatever, I try to maybe make sure there was at least something for the cozy mystery people in that newsletter when I sent it out.
Okay.
I don't think I really lost any people because of that, because if you were a fan of the cozy mysteries, you just sort of ignored it when I sent something out for something that you don't like as much. And some of my other ones cross over better than others. It's just everything I do, I'm trying to think, is it worth the extra time that it's going to take me to try and juggle all these things? Or am I just going to try and go forward, assuming that people who like the way that I write are going to like the way that I write. And if it's just a little off their genre, they'll just ignore that and wait for me to come back with something that they do like.
Yeah. That's great. Actually, that blows my mind in a way, because I thought I just had to keep everything so separate. But if you're really building super fans, I mean, I guess if I'm a super fan of an author and their writing style, I wouldn't unsubscribe just because they came out with a new genre. Unless it was horror, because I don't like scary things. Okay? I can't.
Yeah, I think as long as you're doing steamy romance and Christian, things that are way at the end of the spectrum.
I'm going to be the opposite, because I started out with young adult fantasy. So moving to romance that does have spice, I felt like I had to separate it. And they're two different names, but I kept the same email client and I do a segment. So I have my young adult fantasy, and of course they grow up So I let them know about the pen name, but it's not something I'm emailing as constantly as I am the romance that I'm building. So I just kept it in the same email client so that it's easier on me.
Yes,
process
we
wise.
definitely should do that. I have a lot of people there. Well, I've got 4 different websites and 9 different like mail things. I do half of it on MailChimp and half of it on something else. I'm like, no. You got to bring everything as tight as you possibly can. You can segment things, like you said, but find a mailing client that works for you that you can segment.
So let's talk about mailing clients. Like, some people are unaware of the different types of mailing clients too. What would be, let's say, your top 3 mail clients that you've worked with or know of?
I really only have one.
Yeah.
I don't like any third-party things. I know they're very convenient for people when they're first starting out, so I totally get that. A lot of them are free when you're first starting out and your list isn't big, so I totally get that. But once you have a fair amount of followers, I think it's better to bring it in-house.
Oh.
I use ACY Mailing, which is a program that works with WordPress and it works with Joomla, which I prefer Joomla. And what it does is everything. It can segment, it can keep different lists, and you can time things to go out certain times. You can have auto responses. It does everything that the third parties do, but it doesn't charge you more the more people you get, and it doesn't have a meltdown every time you try and import a new list that you gathered from somewhere. You don't have to worry about getting blocked, anyone except the actual people you're sending to. So it takes a lot of problems out of it. It takes just a little extra getting used to, because maybe you're already used to MailChimp or whoever, but once you've got it, you're good to go.
That's interesting. I've never really heard about someone bringing it in-house like that.
Well, I have a web development firm, so it was obvious for me, but it's not hard. You just have someone like me set it up, and then you won't have any problem with it.
Interesting.
If you're just starting out, I'm always surveying on my platforms and asking people questions. And I think MailerLite is what people start with because of pricing and just ease of use. And I started with MailChimp, and sorry, MailChimp, it wasn't right for me. It just didn't, as far as like templates and ease of use and cost. But then I made the mistake of going too far, and I went to ConvertKit, which is now called Kit. And there's certain things I love about it, but it almost has too many features for someone like me. It has too much that I'm not going to be using. And I think that's something for listeners who are just starting out. Talk to people, but also read reviews and look at all the services. And honestly, if it's not something you're going to need or use, go kind of that middle of the road. But I would say MailerLite for most is what most people are using. I don't know what you're using, Cassie, if you can speak
so
to that.
Interesting. I started with MailChimp as well. It was difficult for me. So I'm also the person who's working full-time and all the things. So like Amy suggested, I wanted it all in one platform. I wanted to go to. So then I went to Wix, which was hosting my website at the time. And they have a newsletter function that's all inclusive. So I was like, fabulous. And then I kind of grew in all the genres and things. And I did go to MailerLite. And what I liked about it was I moved my websites there too. So it's all encompassing for me. As Amy said, when you end up with 3 different websites, you kind of want to put it all in a container. So for me, MailerLite is my fiction. And then I use Podia.com that hosts my nonfiction and my newsletter and everything. So I kind of like wrapping my website and my mailer lists all together. They all have similar functions with autoresponders and things like that. But I just found it, if my brain is in one pathway, if it's fiction, if it's this genre, or it's a specific thing, going to one place is really helpful for me. So that leads me to a question too, Amy. When you're looking at tools and setting up your newsletter, do you recommend certain processes for automations and things like that?
Anything that you find that you wish you were going to do yourself, like I do have a thanks for signing up here's a free email. So that's always good to have if you happen to have a free book. I don't do I know some people have onboarding patterns where, after a month they send them something and after 3 months they send them. I don't even want to wrap my head around it.
Oh, good. Because I can't wrap my head around it either.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's too much. And you're sending them newsletters anyway. So I don't really see why you have to say, hey, you've been with me for a month, and remind them that maybe they want to unsubscribe. It can work against you too.
Yeah.
Oh, great point. It can work against you, right?
Yeah, because they may be just floating and they're like, you know what? Thanks for reminding me. I think I will unsubscribe.
When you were talking about surveys, you reminded me one of my favorite tricks for my newsletter is before every book, do a name the blank. So name the bar, the character, the store, the whatever happens to be going on in that book. So I've gotten as many as 600 entries for that. And what I give away is 20 random winners get the new release, which also works for me because A, it doesn't cost a lot. B, what it does cost, I get back anyway. I gift them through Amazon. So there's 20 sales
that are verified.
That are
I love it.
And they count as, towards my numbers during launch. So maybe I'll get bumped up the Amazon algorithms for a second. So it works.
Wait, okay. Tell me how that, I've never done the gift through Amazon feature.
Oh, you haven't?
How does that work? Because I always thought it was just me buying something for someone, but it does count as a sale? Oh, where have I been?
Because it's
you're gifting it, right?
Yeah.
Is that right, Amy?
I'm gifting it. Yeah. So it's a little button there that says, buy for others. And then you hit that and then it sends them a link and then they can claim the book.
Okay.
So
wow.
If I'm not mistaken, you just need their email address, right? To gift it.
And they just entered my name the whatever contest. So I have their email.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so that also gets around. Can you do that if you're in KU?
Yeah, you can gift a book.
So that gets around like giving away free books because
you're giving it through Amazon, so Amazon doesn't mind. So it's a sample for Amazon. They're good with
and
that.
If they review it, they'll have the check mark because it's a verified purchase.
They really
because you gifted it.
My whole life is going to be different now.
Here's a bonus: when you say you buy it for 20 people, and then you can go and look and see who's claimed theirs, and invariably people who maybe already bought it don't claim it. So you'll end up with like 6 spares or something like that are just on there, never claimed. Amazon never tells you, hey, you can get your money back for that. They just say you bought it and too bad, it's just going to die here. But what I do is then with my own giveaways on AXP, you guys know when you are in a giveaway, you give away 3 books at the end to the winners. I use those spares as giveaways later on because I can revoke them from who they went to originally if they haven't claimed them after a certain amount of time. So I revoke it and then resend it to a new person.
Oh, that's smart. Wow. I love that.
Yeah.
I have a question. Have you done that with physical items? Because I remember buying Kindles as giveaways and gift cards. And I'm wondering, have you done that to where you can send them the physical item through Amazon so that you're not having to deal with the shipping and everything yourself independently?
If anytime I have to give away anything, hold on, you made me remember something else I was going to say. If you're going to give away something like a Kindle on your site, sometimes it's better. I happened to do a Kindle this time for my Facebook ad because I just wanted to see, like if it was the most magnificent gift, how many people will this ad get me so I could test it. But I like more giving away books so I know I'm getting actual readers and not people who just want to resell a Kindle. So you can actually just tell people that they'll get books up to $50 worth of books and tell them to pick the books that they want. And then you drop ship them to them through Amazon.
I love that too.
If they're paperback, or if they're not paperback, you just, gift them the ebooks. But if they're paperback too, the way that Amazon works, like you get points when you buy hard copies. And so then since I'm telling them to tell me what books they want instead of giving them money, and then I'm sending them the books, I'm getting the points, which help me pay for more books to send to people.
That's so smart. I love that.
Oh my gosh. All these little gems. I'm just soaking all of this up. because sometimes I always feel like I've got to do it, the hard way, like by getting one of the paperbacks I bought and putting it together. Although it does allow you to sign it if you send it, but I love that you can do the quick gift.
Well, that you get from signing a book goes away very quickly when you realize you can just drop ship it and you don't have to rack it up. Post office or whatever.
Yeah. The ease of that. And then we could get our author friends together and do a little book gift away with all of our friends in the same genre too. That's a really good idea.
I love it.
Yeah, those are the things that you just don't read about. And that's why I love having guests on this podcast that can speak to it, because, it's hard to find this information when you're just, Googling, what do I do? It's a new author. I published a book. Now what?
The latest thing I added to Authors XP is just consulting time with me, because there's all these little things that people will just send me emails, authors will, and say, what do I do about, how come? And I'll be like, oh, gosh, I know all the answers for that I could tell them. But if I'm writing emails to people all day long answering free questions, I don't have time to do anything else. So I still try and be as helpful as I can, but I'll say, it sounds like you've got a lot of things. You could just basically buy an hour with me and just hit me with anything. And if it's not at the top of your head, the way I did it was that basically an hour is an hour. So if you think of 3 things now and it takes me 10 minutes to answer you, come back a week, a month, a year later when something really hits you and you still have time.
Right.
Wow, that's great. Okay. We'll put all that information about how people can find you in the show notes. But yeah, I think that's really valuable. And I think when I was first starting out, you just feel like you're just on a boat paddling to a shore, and then your oar just falls into the ocean. And it's so nice now that there are services like yours that really help authors navigate. So thank you for all you do for authors. So that's my question. Why did you want to do this to help authors? What motivates you to give back to others?
It's my true love. I was a writer to start off with, and then I just stopped writing because it's hard to make money as a writer, especially back in the day before there was Kindles and whatnot. So that's when I started the web development company. And it was fun. It was still creative and whatnot, but it's not my jam. So I did fine at it, and I still enjoy doing the occasional website, but I really wanted to get back to writing. I literally think about marketing books 24/7 now, my own and other people, and I love it.
Well, tell us real quick, since we're all romance writers, you have a new romance out.
Yep.
I mean, you started with rom-coms, but then you went to cozy mystery, and I love what you do on the covers. Tell us, how you came up with your branding for the pineapple mysteries, but also why you wanted to switch back to your rom-com.
Just kind of boredom, basically. Rom-coms were kind of having a resurgence, and it's definitely my wheelhouse because of the com part. So I was like, I might as well just write another one and see how that goes. But like you ladies were already talking about, it's tough because, I've got this big fan base for my mysteries, and then, they don't all transfer every time. Like my thrillers got about, 60% of my cozy people to go for them, but, there's 30 I didn't get. And then the rom-coms, it did pretty well, but not as well as Pineapple does. So it does feel like you're taking a step back every time you start a new genre, and it's kind of heartbreaking for a second, but.
Yeah, Cassie, how do you feel about starting your new genre?
Yeah, fellow rom-comer here. But I also was diving into short romance and making a go at that at the same time. I think it's energizing to some expectation, because the people who find you are brand new and they're excited and they're emailing you, and you have the time as you're trying to build. And I think that's awesome. But at the same time, you're kind of pulling your hair out because you're starting from scratch. And like the things I know to do from previous years, because I've been published for a while, I tend to forget. It's like you having to restart your engine a little bit. But at the same time, it's new fuel because things have changed from 2016. So it's one of those things too. So I find, I don't know, just trying to stay current in the industry with new software, new processes, new programs, to try to keep things as simple as possible for myself has been the key.
Yeah, it just, for me, it was the reason I went was because of the resurgence of rom-coms. And now I just finished the 24th Pineapple, and, it gets a little,
Yeah.
you want them to be good every time. You don't want people to get bored of them, but you yourself can get a little bored of the same thing.
That creative energy. Yeah, feed it.
Yeah. 24. So what's next for you then? Are you going to do a 25th Pineapple?
I'm sure. Can't stop the pineapples. Right now I'm working on more of a harder core thriller. It's a lot like my She McQueen series. Strong female lead, thrilling things happening, but it's sort of like a female Dexter sort of a feel.
Ooh. I just got chills.
I know, me too. I was like, ooh. That's some good marketing right out the bat.
Wow. Yeah, I'm really excited about it. But I'm doing that now. And actually, that one I'm going to pitch to agents just to see if I can maybe become an Amazon book. So they can do my marketing for me for that. But if it doesn't work out, I'm perfectly happy to turn it into a new series.
That's awesome.
And have you had an agent this whole time? Are you completely self-published?
I'm completely self-published. I had a publisher for a nonfiction I did like back in 2017. Not 2017. That was it was like 2000. And actually, it was like 1990.
Oh, wow.
That's how long ago. That's one of the 7 years. I was in track a little bit here. But no, it's always been me.
That's amazing.
Nice.
Well, I really appreciate your time today. Unless, Cassie, do you have any more questions?
No.
Or Amy, if you have any more nuggets of advice for us starving authors?
No,
here.
I mean, not really. If you're going to get an agent, don't just make sure you try and get with a big publisher, because I get a lot of sad stories about people who go with hybrid publishers and whatnot. And basically all the person does is throw them up on Amazon and then ask them to market their own book, which you could have done yourself in 5 minutes. Only now you're losing 20%.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
So be careful with that. But
yeah, Angela and I have talked about that before. I've been pretty vocal for myself. I was like, once you have the experience of self-publishing, it's like you need to be either a pretty high mid-tier publisher or a high tier publisher, because I can do it myself otherwise.
Yeah, unless they have some market that you can't get into, like Amazon does, or like a big publisher does, there's just really no point. You can do a better job yourself.
Yeah.
See?
Agreed.
The power is in you.
The power
That's
is in
the
you.
lesson.
You can do it.
Okay, it's time for our table topic. Let's see.
No, I don't.
Oh my goodness. Okay, this is good. So, the one question was, where should the line be drawn between church and state? It's too early to dive into that for me. So let's go with, what's your biggest pet peeve? That's a better.
Oh,
I know it.
Under any particular topic or just in general?
No, what bothers you? Something that just in life in general, what's your biggest pet peeve?
Jeez. There's so many.
I know, right?
I'm pretty chill. So there's a million little things that bother me probably, but nothing that makes me go crazy. Except,
what's a minor irritation?
I just thought of it. My biggest pet peeve right now is this one FedEx driver who delivers the boxes and puts it in front of my garage instead of walking it to my door. Makes me absolutely livid.
Wait, how big are your packages?
Well, some of them are dog food, which is pretty big. But the problem is the way that our houses are, the door is kind of set back and the garage is out front. So when they put the package out front, I mean, you can pull out of your garage and roll over it and not even know it was ever there. Or it can rain, or it could be there for days if you're not constantly walking to the front of your house, turning around and looking at it. So yeah, that bothers me a lot.
Yeah.
Get unreasonable.
Yeah, that's valid. That's valid.
So my biggest pet peeve is people that don't follow through. Yeah, that drives me batty. That includes my children. Like if you're going to say you're going to do something under a certain timeline, like just tell me if you can't make it or can't do it. I mean, I'm very easygoing as well, but like when it gets to that time or that date and there's nada, and then you tell me like, no, I'm like, seriously? So either I've got to do it or somebody, like and it's funny because my husband used to say my biggest irritation was people who could make decisions, meaning people who can't land the plane. That used to be my number one go-to with people I work with, like, because I'm in a very decision-making industry in my day job and I have high command. So decision-making is not a problem for me. If I know where I'm going or if I need to take a day, I will tell you, like, I need a couple of days to think about this. But people who aren't communicating that and say they'll do something, but they don't, like, you just start to get lower and lower on my list of availability for me to count on you. You know what I mean? Like, that's my biggest irritation.
Oh, gosh. Mine is not very deep, but it's something that...
Not as deep as the FedEx guy?
How do we talk about it? I cannot stand when people don't return their shopping carts to the corral. I'm like out there like, seriously? And then people leave them in parking spaces or partially like in the corner of a parking space you can't quite pull in. So I just don't understand. That tells me a lot about your character if you're not willing to do that. Obviously, unless you're like, okay, maybe you have a physical disability. I'm not counting on that. But like, if you're able to walk it 2 feet over here, why don't you do that? Tied with the people who you're merging onto the highway and they accelerate so you cannot merge and then they go slower once you're on. Who are these people and who hurt you? That's what I want to know. Like, why don't you want people to get on the highway?
The other irritation I have, especially moving back from Germany, is people that are in the fast lane that decide they need to control that fast lane and go slower so nobody can get around them. I'm like, get the hell over. Get out of the fast lane.
Just
drives
I really
me
want
nuts.
to sit down with these people and be like, let's talk about your childhood because something happened because I don't understand. Anyway, those are the things that bother me.
I'm like, I don't care. Just put the damn card up.
I want to know. Well, thank you for joining us today. Don't forget to give us a review and rating wherever you listen to the podcast. It helps us with availability. Thank you to our very special guest, Amy Vansant. Next week, new month. Are you ready? We're going to have a craft fair, so to speak, where we're going to have a month-long deep dive into all things craft. So until then, keep writing, keep doing. See you soon.
Bye.
Thanks for joining today's episode of The Author Next Door. Be sure to like, follow, and tell us your thoughts of this week's episode. Angela and Cassie would love to hear from you.